Hey guys, hope you had a good weekend. So this week we're going to talk about the second seal and the Ezekiel 38 war. So here's the scenario in the future, possibly very soon, maybe even this year, the way things are working out in the world right now. But here's a scenario, and you're going to see a new king. Let's say we see a new king get crowned in a major city. And then we see him parading on a white horse with a bow in his hand, kind of secretly referencing to the angel, the first horseman, on a white horse. And then we see that this king is praised by the United Nations, praised by the Vatican, pretty much praised by everybody, whoever this king is. We see that he has public political support from the leading nations of the world. We, of course, as good truth seekers, we start doing some research on this guy. We start doing some research on his, new monarchy, and we start finding out after some research that every nation that praises him happens to have an obelisk in their capital. Okay, then you start discovering that he has financial ties to the Rothschild family, which, as you know, funds pretty much everything. And in his speeches and ceremonies, which you watch closely, you start seeing signals, okay? Signals relating to the occult, secret signals relating to secret societies. For example, like references to number 72, number 13. Here I'm talking about Anubis and Zeus, the throne of Zeus or throne of Satan, maybe. But the big thing, the big kind of driver of this, new leadership is this talks about this new age movement, that is launching, which everybody's kind of so excited about and kind of, wants to happen. This new age movement brings different things, a lot of changes to the world we know today. Probably the biggest one you'll see first is a world banking system collapse. That's my guess. We see that we're right at the edge of that right now. We'll see the banks start slowly collapsing. We'll see nations start turning probably to cryptocurrency is my guess. Maybe even a social credit system like China has. You'll see basically this new world order is going to be announced and established as the new age, or the new beginning, whatever, something along those lines. Now, this isn't going to go over easy. I mean, many people will oppose this new order, me being one of them. And you're going to see turmoil will probably start breaking out throughout the world. It's going to be probably termed the birth pains of the new age. It's not just going to be change easily. People don't really like change that much. And with major changes, always comes birth pains, right? Always comes pain. So you'll see some turmoil when this starts to happen. What scares me is I have a feeling Christianity is going to start getting blamed for the turmoil. Probably it will be Christians, which will be most against the changes, against this new age. So it would make sense that we then start kind of getting labeled as the bad guys slowly. Meanwhile, over in Israel, with the war going on, I think we're going to see Israel's going to win this war against Palestine. Hard to tell right now with the current conflict how far it would go. But we know, as we see in prophecy, eventually they will take the Temple Mount and start rebuilding the temple. Is it going to happen with the current conflict? I don't know, maybe. Or maybe it'll be a future conflict, but it will happen where they will start rebuilding the temple on that mount. And when that does happen, you're going to see that there's going to be relative peace in the land of Israel. As they start rebuilding this temple, they just won the war. They kind of retook all of the land. And it would seem like they're in relative peace while the rest of the world is going to be just falling into turmoil. Interesting enough, too, like what we talked about in the prophecy last week is you're going to start seeing people all over the world then start discovering somehow that they're descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. And we're going to see people just start immigrating back immigrating to the land of Israel and being welcomed, as long as they can prove that, they're part of the 10 lost tribes. How that's going to look, I don't know exactly, but that's prophesied to happen, as we saw in Ezekiel 37. Okay, so as good students of the Bible, of course, we open our Bible, see what's coming next, keep interpreting prophecies and matching it with world events. And so we come to Revelation chapter 6 again, verse 3. And we see that when the Lamb breaks the second seal, John in his vision heard the second living being say, "Come." And then he saw another horse appear in his vision. This time it was a red one. And its rider was given a mighty sword and the authority to take peace from the earth. And there was war and slaughter everywhere. So that sounds kind of scary. So our first issue for discussion when we meet up is I want to ask you guys, what do you think the next major war would be like? I'm not talking about these little wars like Ukraine and Russia, or even like Israel, Palestine, or Israel, Hamas. Talking about World War level, World War III level. What do you think that's going to look like? What do you think will be the cause? What's going to cause World War III to go? So I want to hear your thoughts on that. How do you think things will be in our country? How's America going to be involved in this World War III? How's that going to look here in our own soil? So I want to talk about that. And the most important, what can we do to survive? If World War III breaks out soon, which is it's looking like it's very possible, what can we do to survive? What can we do to prepare? Okay, so I want to open our discussion this week with that. Let's remember Jesus' warning to us once again in Matthew 24. His next warning, after warning us to not fall for false messiahs and to not be deceived, his next warning right after that in verse 6 is, "You will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place." So there will be wars. As we go on towards the end, more wars. There probably will be a World War III. But the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Okay, I want to jump now. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about World War III. We'll open our discussion with that. But now I want to jump back to the Old Testament, to Ezekiel again, and talk about a war that's been prophesied that has yet to happen. And that's the Ezekiel 38 war. So I'm going to read the prophecy to you, and then we'll discuss it when we meet up this week. So here it is, Ezekiel 38. Ezekiel receives a message from the Lord that says, "Son of man, turn and face Gog of the land of Magog, the prince who rules over the nations of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Give him this message from the sovereign Lord. Gog, I am your enemy. I will turn you around and put hooks in your jaws to lead you out with your whole army, your horses and charioteers in full armor, and a great horde armed with shields and swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya will join you too, with all their weapons. Gomer and its armies will also join you, along with the armies of..." I clicked it fast. My bad. I'll go on. Anyways, it was the armies of Beth Togarmah. So I hit the button fast, but it's okay. We'll keep going. So I'm going to put this link in the comments down below so you can see interpretingthetimes.com. And basically it takes what I just read in Ezekiel 38 and tries to, kind of match the nations listed there to modern nations today. So in the article, you see that Magog refers to modern day Russia, Persia, modern day Iran, Cush is modern day Ethiopia, Put is modern day Libya, Gomer, modern day Eastern Europe, and Beth Togarmah is modern day Turkey. So these are kind of the nations that you see in the Ezekiel 38 war kind of aligning and coming together against Israel. So the original text that I just read is on the left side. If you translate it with the modern countries, right, you get Gog of the land of Russia, who rules over Meshech and Tubal, and you get Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya joining Russia. And then you also get Eastern Europe, okay, will also, and all its armies will join with Russia as well. So that is interesting. Eastern Europe and Russia really aren't getting along right now, but maybe there's going to be in the future some kind of turn there. Turkey also will join this alliance with Russia. That's not far-fetched. We see Turkey already has, workings with Russia and with Iran. Even though it's weird because Turkey is part of NATO, so it would seem that Turkey's kind of playing both sides right now. They're part of NATO, but they're also dealing with Russia and Iran a lot, especially recently against Israel. So very interesting. This alliance, I think in our day, is already starting to form, or it's already pretty much formed. Here's kind of a map to kind of put it into a picture for you guys of this war. You can see Israel's enemies will come from all around. You got Russia leading the fight from the north, kind of combining with Turkey and Iran and East Europe, which used to be the former Soviet Union. Interesting. Maybe even Ukraine will be joining Russia in this. That's an interesting discussion there. And going against Israel, and then from Africa, you're getting Libya and Ethiopia kind of joining in on this fight. So when this war has yet to happen, it's been prophesied in Ezekiel 38. It's in the Old Testament. This war has not happened in history, so meaning it's still meant to happen. The key is that when it does happen, it says Israel is enjoying a time of peace after war. So currently, right now, Israel's at war. So whether it's this war or another war that they're going to be in the future, a war will end. They will be enjoying a time of peace. I don't know how long that time of peace is, but while they're in peace, then this alliance is going to form and try to go against them. Here it is, verse 7. Get ready, be prepared. Keep all the armies around you mobilized and take command of them. A long time from now. So Ezekiel was even told, this is a long time from now, way into the future. Well, it's been, we're getting to almost, between 2,000 to 3,000 years since Ezekiel got this prophet. It's been a long time. He says, in the distant future, you will swoop down on the land of Israel. He's talking to the leader of Gog, the leader of Russia. You'll swoop down on the land of Israel, which will be enjoying peace after recovering from war. So that is interesting, with the war going on right now, after they recover from this war and enjoy some time in peace, I could totally see, Russia and the Muslim nations coming up with a plan to retaliate. After they're enjoying peace and recovering from war, and here's the second part, after its people have returned from many lands to the mountain of Israel, then this alliance, you and all your allies, a vast and awesome army, will roll down on them like a storm and cover the land like a cloud. Okay, so a couple things that need to happen. The war in Israel has to stop. Okay, they have to be enjoying peace after recovering from the war. And then many people from all over the world, like we talked about, probably the lost 10 tribes of Israel, will then return to the mountains of Israel, immigrating back and filling the land. When that happens, and probably the temple is getting rebuilt during this time, if not already rebuilt. When that happens, then it seems like this war will kick off. So it may be in conjunction with World War III, but it may not necessarily. I mean, you can have World War III before this with all the other nations of the world. And then this just be the top off. Or this may be the kicker to World War III, one or the other. All stuff that we'll discuss this week. But let's continue with the prophecy in verse 10. It says, this is what the sovereign Lord says. At that time, whenever this happens, evil thoughts will come to your mind. He's talking to the leader of Russia. Evil thoughts will come to your mind, and you will devise a wicked scheme. You will say, Israel is an unprotected land filled with unwalled villages. I will march against her and destroy these people who live in such confidence. I will go to those formerly desolate cities that are now filled with people who have returned from exile in many nations. I will capture vast amounts of plunder, for the people are rich with livestock and other possessions now. They think the whole world revolves around them. But Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish will ask, do you really think, they're going to ask like the leader of Russia when he comes up with this plan, do you really think the armies you have gathered can rob Israel of silver and gold? Okay, do you think you could carry away their livestock, seize their goods, carry off their plunder? Do you really think your plan's going to succeed? So kind of cool how we can, as these things play out, we could kind of tell the future and predict exactly how it's going to go, right? After Israel recovers from war and is at peace, and people flock back to the land from the lost 10 tribes of Israel, and Israel starts becoming prosperous, right? Because everybody's going to bring back their riches, and it's just going to be a great glory time for the land of Israel. The leader of Russia, who not necessarily the current leader, could be the next leader or the current leader, he definitely fits this bill, going to come up with this evil thought, this wicked scheme that, like, look at these people. Look at these people of Israel. They're rebuilding their temple. They squash the Palestinians, probably say something in his mind like they murdered everybody. They're horrible people. They're living with such confidence. They think the world revolves around them. You see this already, right? You even see this in our own country, people kind of protesting with this kind of mentality. So this is very possible in the near future. And then, him coming up with this scheme like, you know what? I'm going to lead the charge. I'm going to lead the charge, and I am going to go and I'm going to take out these people. I'm going to bring all my assets, and I am going to go and invade Israel and declare war on them. But then these other players, Sheba and Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish, which we'll talk about who they are in a minute, they hear this plan and they're like, do you really think you, Russia, and your army can go ahead and overthrow Israel? I mean, think about how powerful Israel's going to be at this point. As its riches increase. I mean, they're so powerful right now. How much more in the future, right? As they continue to increase and also get all this experience that they're getting. So it'd be very interesting to see this stuff kind of play out. So here's another article from Oxford Bible Church. Post a link in the comments there. It's kind of a discussion on who is this Sheba and Dedan. Okay, it's believed that the merchants of Tarshish refers to what's known as the Western powers. So Western Europe, America maybe is part of Tarshish, right? Kind of like this first world type country, democratic countries. But Sheba and Dedan is believed to be the land we know today as Arabia, specifically Saudi Arabia. Which makes sense because Saudi Arabia seems to be allied to the Western powers right now. So the U.S. and Europe, which is Tarshish, and Saudi Arabia, Sheba and Dedan, are allied today. So it would make sense that when Russia comes up with this scheme to invade Israel, that politically, there will be worldwide politically, there'd be a backlash from Western Europe and America on, no, you don't. What are you thinking? And even Saudi Arabia would be like, no, you don't. You're not going to do this. So you can see this kind of playing out. There's the original text on the left. If you translate that, then you just add Saudi Arabia and Western Europe. And USA, I put USA in a question mark because even Merchant of Tarshish refers to the Western world, Western Europe specifically, but there's no direct mention to America. I guess it's assumed that we're part of this Western Europe, Western world, or I don't know, maybe we're not even around anymore when this happens. So I want to discuss this on the tail end of, our World War III discussion. What do you think is going to happen to America? Why is there not direct references to us? Why do you think this is? Are we part of the merchants of Tarshish? Will we no longer exist when this happens? And if that's the case, what can possibly cause the downfall of America? you know. And interesting, where's China or Asia in all of this? In prophecy, you don't really see references to China and Asia. So make that our next issue for discussion there for this week. I'd love to hear what you guys had to say. Okay, so let's talk about you know, could this be World War III? Could World War III happen before this specific war? I don't know. Is it kind of bunched up together? Maybe. What we do get is two major alliances here from this prophecy. You have Gog's alliance, Gog's, not God, Gog, Gog's alliance, which is seems to be a communist slash Muslim alliance. So who knows? Maybe China will be part of that as well with the communist backing, or they will kind of take advantage of the whole situation for their own purposes and cause another war somewhere, probably against us. So in Gog's alliance from the prophecy, we get Russia, Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, Eastern Europe, and Turkey. With Israel's alliance, it's kind of this Zionism slash democracy type alliance where you got Israel, you got Western Europe, possibly America, we're still around, and Saudi Arabia will be part of that alliance as well. So you see this kind of two sides forming in this prophecy. Verse 14, therefore, son of man, prophesy against Gog. Give him this message from the sovereign Lord. When my people, Israel, are living in peace in their land, then you will rouse yourself. You will come from your homeland in the distant north with your vast cavalry and your mighty army. It's interesting. Russia has one of the largest, tank contingents in the world, which is known as the New Cavalry. And you will attack my people Israel, covering their land like a cloud. At that time in the distant future, I will bring you against my land as everyone watches. Can you imagine this happening? Everybody with all the media, not just media, social media, everybody's going to be watching live as this invasion takes place. And as everyone watches, and then God says, and my holiness will be displayed by what happens to you, Gog. Then all the nations will know that I am the Lord. It's kind of exciting. When this invasion happens, everybody will be watching either social media or through the news. This is going to be big news. Everybody's going to see Russia invading Israel. And as they're watching, God is going to do something. And it's going to be so clear that what God does that everybody will know, oh my goodness, the God of Israel is real. Pretty amazing to think about. So what is going to happen? God goes on and tells us exactly what he's going to do. This is what he says. To the leader of Gog, are you the one I was talking about long ago when I announced through Israel's prophets that in the future I would bring you against my people? So this is interesting here. When this leader might actually be told about this prophecy when he comes up with this plan. And he'll be like, hey, I think this is you. Read this. And so can you imagine this leader of Russia opening this and reading this prophecy and saying, are you the one I was talking about long ago when I announced through Israel's prophet that in the future I would bring you against my people? He's going to be like, oh man, God's talking to me. Yeah, I'm the guy. But this is what the sovereign Lord says. When Gog invades the land of Israel, my fury will boil over. In my jealousy and blazing anger, I promise a mighty shaking in the land of Israel on that day. A mighty shaking. So to me, that sounds like a massive earthquake in the land of Israel. Okay. It says, all living things, the fish in the sea, the birds of the sky, the animals of the field, the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people on earth will quake in terror at my presence. Mountains will be thrown down, cliffs will crumble, walls will fall to the earth. I will summon the sword against you on all the hills of Israel, says the sovereign Lord. So as everybody's watching live as this invasion happens, looks like there's going to be just this massive earthquake in the land as the army pushes into Israel in the mountains of Israel. And you're going to watch it live as whatever, the army, the tanks, whatever Russia brings and this alliance brings, the earthquake seems to just be like taking them out. And not just that, he says, your men will turn their swords against each other. I will punish you and your armies with disease and bloodshed. I will send torrential rain, hailstones, fire, burning sulfur. In this way, I will show my greatness and holiness. I will make myself known to all the nations of the world. They will know that I am the Lord. So as we're watching this invasion live, we're going to see a massive earthquake. We're going to see Russia and their alliance, their soldiers kind of in a weird way just turning against each other and killing each other instead of going to take the fight to Israel. We're going to see weird disease and plague amongst the armies. We're going to see bloodshed. It's going to be pouring rain. We're going to see great hailstones, and then fire and burning sulfur, So basically, this army isn't even going to get a chance. As soon as they cross into the land to invade, God is going to fight against them. And it's going to be very clear that it's God fighting. And everybody's going to see that and be like, this is weird. Maybe there is a God of Israel. So, Son of Man, prophesy against Gog. Give him this message from the sovereign Lord. I am your enemy, O Gog, ruler of the nations of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around and drive you toward the mountains of Israel, bringing you from the distant north. I will knock the bow from your left hand. So that's interesting, bow from your left hand. So now that we're kind of referencing the rider from the first seal, right? Right on the white horse with a bow. I wonder if there's some reference there. And the arrows from your right hand, and I will leave you helpless. So do you think the white and the red horsemen or blacksmiths, will they combine and work together in this? If so, how much time do you think elapsed between the first and second seal? Or is it pretty instantly? Is it the first seal opens, second seal opens, and all this kind of happens within a year, or is it like a 30-year gap, in between? I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there. I kind of want to hear what you guys have to say. So we'll make that an issue for discussion this week. All right, verse 4. All right, here's kind of a little scary part. God says, you and your army and your allies will all die on the mountains. I will feed you to the vultures and wild animals. You will fall in the open fields, for I have spoken, says the sovereign Lord. And I will rain down fire on Magog and all your allies who live safely on the coast. Then they will know that I am the Lord. So we're all going to watch it happen right there in the mountains of Israel. But then after that, God says that he will then rain down fire on all the allies. So all those nations in that alliance, fire will rain down on them. Now, I don't know if this means, kind of like Sodom and Gomorrah, fire from heaven actually coming down on Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, Turkey, all of Eastern Europe. Maybe some people think, maybe it's nuclear weapons. Fire raining from the sky. Nuclear weapons is an interesting topic. So I kind of want to ask you guys what you think. Do you think nuclear war will ever happen? And if it does, what can we do to survive? If this prophecy is nuclear weapons, then, it'll be towards the alliances that you saw in Gog's alliance. I don't know. What would be the result of this war? Would this be an end to communism and even an end to Islam as part of that alliance? So you see, this is kind of a big topic to talk about. So I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. Verse 7, God continues. He says, in this way I will make known my holy name among my people of Israel. I will not let anyone bring shame on it. And the nations too will know that I am the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. That day of judgment will come, says the sovereign Lord. Everything will happen just as I have declared it. So this is going to be a major world event. Don't know if it's part of, if World War III happens before it and this is a separate war after. I mean, it'll probably be kind of like the last big war. If it's part of World War III, then it'll probably be, this event will probably be the end of World War III. And when you got all this fire raining down, that'll probably bring an end to it. So I don't know, but what I do know is this has not yet happened in history. So this prophecy is still yet to be fulfilled before the end of the age. Then the people in the towns of Israel will go out and pick up your small and large shields, bows and arrows, javelins and spears, and they will use them for fuel. They will be enough to last them 7 years. They won't need to cut wood from the fields or forests, for these weapons will give them all the fuel they need. They will plunder those who plan to plunder them, and they will rob those who plan to rob them, says the sovereign Lord. So, kind of an interesting verse here. Couple things. Number one, shields, bows, arrows, javelins, spears. Those are the weapons that they're using to invade Israel, not tanks, fighter jets, missiles. So I don't know if this is just, symbolic here, or did something happen prior to this that basically took out all the technology that we have? I mean, if it is after World War III, could World War III had basically sent us back to the Bronze Age here, where we're back down to shields, bows, and arrow. Maybe there's no more ammo for our weapons, our guns, or the missile arsenal is expanded from World War III. I don't know. Maybe there's EMPs that takes out our technology, and we have to resort to shield, bows, and arrows, and javelins and spears. What do you think? What do you think might cause warfare to go back to these ancient weapons, And what can we do to prepare for that type of a scenario? I mean, if there's something that's causing us to go back to these, it's something big, like major EMP, major technology collapse, or basically going back to horseback in the Bronze Age. I mean, some pretty significant stuff has to happen for us to get there. So how do we prepare for that scenario? And it's interesting that those weapons, when Israel gathers them after this war, it will be enough fuel to last them for 7 years. Well, the tribulation is believed to be 7 years. So here God will miraculously provide for that land for them for 7 years. So maybe the tribulation then, as soon as this war is done, the tribulation of 7 years then kicks off, whenever that might be. So a lot of fun things to talk about when we meet up this week. Post-war, once this war is done, which it seems to be a pretty quick war, the building up is what's taking long, but once the invasion happens, it seems to be taken care of really fast by God. But here's the post-war. After the war, there'll be vast graveyards for Gog and his hordes in the Valley of the Travelers, east of the Dead Sea. So there on the map, you see where the red star is, just left of that is the Dead Sea. So somewhere around that area, there's going to be just massive graveyards made for all these fallen soldiers of Gog's alliance. So maybe that's where they're going to kind of try to invade from, which is like kind of the Jordan area. It says it will block the way of those who travel there, and they're going to change the name of the place to the Valley of Gog's Hordes. We were even told what the place is going to be called in the future. It will take 7 months for the people of Israel to bury the bodies and cleanse the land. It's going to be a lot of bodies there. Everyone in Israel will help, for it will be a glorious victory for Israel when I demonstrate my glory on that day, says the sovereign Lord. And after 7 months, teams of men will be appointed to search the land for skeletons to bury, so the land will be made clean again. Whenever bones are found, a marker will be set up, so the burial crews will take them to be buried in the Valley of Gog's Hordes. There will be a town there named Hamona, which means horde, and so the land will finally be cleansed. I mean, talk about details. This This is a very detailed prophecy that has yet to be fulfilled. And I mean, you're going to be able to just see it happen as you read this book or as you read this prophecy. And you can just basically outline exactly, even to the name of the town that's going to be there, where this mass gravesite is dug up. And now, Son of Man, this is what the Sovereign Lord says. Call all the birds and wild animals. Say to them, gather together for my great sacrificial feast. Come from far and near to the mountains of Israel, and there eat flesh and drink blood. Eat the flesh of mighty men and drink the blood of princes as though they were rams, lambs, goats, and bulls, all fattened animals from Bashan. Gorge yourselves with flesh until you're glutted. Drink blood until you're drunk. This is the sacrificial feast I have prepared for you. Okay, a feast at my banquet table, feast on horses and charioteers, on mighty men. Right, all kinds of valiant warriors, says the Sovereign Lord. So you're just going to see all these birds and wild animals just come and start eating all these, feeding on all these dead bodies all over that valley after God's done with them. So anyways, pretty graphic there, what we're going to see happen. But in this way, God says, I will demonstrate my glory to the nations. Everyone will see the punishment I have inflicted on them and the power of my fist when I strike. And from that time on, the people of Israel will know that I am the Lord their God. One thing is true after this is there will be a huge distinguishing about Israel. Probably nobody is going to try to fight them again. I could foresee probably the whole world hating them for what God does to this communist/Muslim alliance. So we'll see. I mean, it will definitely set the stage for the coming of an antichrist, and everybody will just band behind him to go and take out Israel. So this is all this prophecy, which long ago seemed like way not possible. In today's world, if you look at what's going on in the world, it is very possible. I mean, it is possible for this to happen here this year or in the next couple years. It's also possible that it'll happen, 30, 50 years from now. But it's starting to form. But you could see this alliance starting to form. So we're definitely going to keep our eyes open. I definitely think you're going to see it in your lifetime. So be looking for it. Know this prophecy and match it with current events and what's going on in the world. All right. Look forward to this discussion. Little bit of homework before we meet up. I'm going to email you guys a letter, which is interesting, from a guy named Albert Pike. It was a letter to the Illuminati leader, supposedly named Mazzini, back in 1871. And what's interesting about this letter is this letter kind of outlines 3 world wars and exactly how those wars are going to play out. So, like a script on how to make these wars happen. So I'll email that to you, or you guys can search it. Just search Albert Pike's letter to Illuminati leader Mazzini, and take a look at that before we meet up, because who mentioned that? And another research is this whole Gog and Magog. Something interesting that happens in London every year. Look up the Lord Mayor's Parade. And in this Lord Mayor's Parade, they always parade these 2 giant statue type things, or these 2 giant creatures called Gog and Magog. And for some reason in London, every year during the Lord Mayor's Parade, they parade these 2 giants through their streets. Kind of weird and cultish. So research that. Maybe we'll talk about that when we meet up. All right. See you guys. God bless.